You are standing in the chapel of Sansevero in Naples. The light is dim, the air is cool. Before you is a marble sculpture of a man lying beneath a veil. The veil is also marble. You can see his face through it. The fabric clings to his nose, his lips, his chin. It drapes across his chest. The folds gather at his feet. You know it is stone. You have been told it is stone, but your eyes refuse to accept it. The veil appears translucent. It appears soft. It appears to have weight, tension, movement. This is the veiled Christ, carved in 1753 by Giuseppe San Martino. It is not the only example. Across Europe, across centuries, stone has been carved to resemble fabric. Not just fabric, but fabric in motion. Fabric so thin it seems impossible. Fabric that should not exist in a material that fractures under stress. The question is simple. How? Marble is metamorphic rock. It forms from limestone under heat and pressure. Its structure is crystalline. It is composed primarily of calcite or dolomite. It is hard. It is brittle. It does not bend. When you strike marble with a chisel, it fractures along grain lines. If you carve too thin, it breaks. If you apply uneven pressure, it cracks. Traditional stone carving requires removing material gradually. The sculptor works from the outside in. Large forms first, details last. Thin sections are dangerous. A slip of the hand, a flaw in the stone, a miscalculation of depth, and months of work are destroyed. Marble can be polished to translucency, but only at extreme thinness. At that scale, it becomes fragile. A fingernail could crack it. Vibration could shatter it. This is what stone does. This is what stone has always done. And yet, in the church of Santa Maria della Vittoria in Rome, Bernini's Ecstasy of Saint Teresa depicts a saint in religious rapture. Her robes are marble. The folds cascade across her body. The fabric appears to ripple. The texture is so fine, you expect it to move in a breeze. This was completed in 1652. In the Cathedral of Milan, a statue depicts Saint Bartholomew holding his own flayed skin. The skin is draped over his shoulder like a cloak. It is carved so thin you can see the folds where it gathers. The surface shows texture, the suggestion of flesh, of weight, of collapse. This was carved in 1562 by Marco da Grate. In the Louvre, Antonio Corradini's Veiled Truth shows a woman beneath a veil of marble. The veil clings to her face. You can see her eyes through the stone. The fabric appears to press against her lips. This was completed in 1750. These are not isolated works. Veiled figures appear in Prague, Vienna, Florence, Venice. Draped saints appear in cathedrals across Spain. Fabric carved into architectural reliefs appear in France, Germany, and England. The consistency is striking. The locations vary. The time periods span centuries, but the effect is the same. Stone that does not look like stone. Art histories offer explanations. The sculptors were masters. They trained for decades. They inherited techniques passed down through generations of workshops. They understood marble grain. They selected stone carefully. They worked slowly. The process involved roughing out the form with pointed chisels, refining shapes with toothed chisels, smoothing surfaces with rasps and abrasives, polishing with progressively finer compounds, pumice, sand, tin oxide. For a veiled figure, The sculptor would carve the body first, then carve the veil as a separate layer, leaving it slightly detached in places to create the illusion of separation. The thinness was achieved through patience. The translucency came from polishing. Some works took years, some took decades. The sculptors worked within guild systems. Apprentices learned by watching. Masters corrected errors. Knowledge was preserved through demonstration, not documentation. This is the accepted explanation. It is thorough, it is reasonable, and for most people, it is enough. But there are questions. If these sculptures required decades of labor, how many attempts failed? How many sculptures cracked during the final stages? How many veils shattered before completion? We do not see the failures, we only see the successes. If the technique required such specialized knowledge, how do we see similar results across regions that had little contact? Why does the same impossible thinness appear in Italy, in Spain, in Central Europe, in the same centuries? If the method was polishing and patience, why do some of these veils show folds so deep and so fine that polishing alone cannot explain them? Take the veiled Christ again. The veil is not simply thin, it is draped over a complex three-dimensional form. The fabric follows the contours of a human face. It clings in some areas and floats in others. The folds are not uniform, they have randomness, they have naturalism. To carve this, the sculptor would need to remove material beneath the veil without ever seeing the underside. A single miscalculation in depth would break through. A single undetected flaw in the marble would crack the surface. And yet, it survives. For more than 270 years, it survives. How many attempts did it take to achieve this? We do not know. We have no record of failed veils, no documentation of shattered sculptures, no apprentice journals describing the method. We have only the finished objects. Marble has a grain structure. It has natural planes of weakness. Sculptors must account for this. When carving thin sections, the stone is under constant stress. Any internal flaw, a fossil inclusion, a vein of softer mineral, a microcrack, can propagate under the pressure of carving. Modern studies of historical marble sculptures show that many contain natural fractures that were stabilized during the carving process. Some show evidence of ancient repairs, lead pins, adhesive compounds, metal reinforcements hidden within the stone. But some do not. Some appear to be single, unbroken pieces. The veiled Christ has been studied extensively. No hidden reinforcements have been found. No evidence of reassembly. It is one continuous block of marble, carved to a thickness that should not be structurally stable. In 2013, researchers used laser scanning to measure the veil's thickness. In places, it is less than 3 millimeters. At that thickness, marble is glass-like. It fractures under vibration. It can crack from thermal expansion. It should not survive transport, should not survive installation, should not survive centuries of humidity changes and structural settling. And yet, in recent years, a community has formed online. They share images of historical buildings. They focus on architectural details that seem inconsistent with accepted timelines. They use the term Old World to describe a pre-industrial construction tradition they believe has been forgotten or obscured. The fabric-like stone carvings appear frequently in their discussions. To them, these sculptures are evidence of something lost. Not lost through time, but lost through deliberate erasure. They suggest that the standard explanations, patience, skill, tradition, are insufficient. Some propose alternative methods: stone softening, acoustic manipulation, technologies unknown to modern science. These claims are not supported by evidence. They are not accepted by historians or engineers, but they are emotionally compelling. Because when you stand front of the veiled Christ, when you see stone that looks like silk, the standard explanation feels inadequate. Not wrong, just incomplete. We live in an age of industrial precision. We have CNC machines, laser cutters, 3D printers, computer-aided design software. We can fabricate objects with tolerances measured in microns. And yet, we struggle to replicate the veiled Christ. Modern sculptors have attempted it. They use the same materials, Carrara marble, the same stone San Martino used. They use traditional tools. They follow historical techniques. The results are impressive, but they are not the same. The modern versions lack the naturalism, the randomness, the sense that the fabric is genuinely resting on skin. Perhaps this is because we have lost something, not a technology, but a way of seeing.
Renaissance and Baroque sculptors trained differently. They worked in workshops from childhood. They observed fabric every day, the way it draped on clients, the way it gathered on statues, the way light passed through linen and silk. They did not learn sculpture as an abstract skill. They learned it as a language. When we look at their work today, we see it through a different lens. We see it as tourists, as photographers, as people who experience the finished object without understanding the process. This creates distance, and distance creates disbelief. It is possible that no secret technique was lost. It is possible that the only thing lost was time. In the Renaissance, a sculptor might spend 5 years as an apprentice before touching marble, another 5 years carving architectural ornament, another decade before being trusted with a major commission. By the time they attempted a veiled figure, they had 20 years of experience, 20 years of observing stone, 20 years of understanding how marble fractures, how it responds to pressure, how it catches light. This kind of training no longer exists, not because it was erased, but because it became economically unviable. The guild system collapsed. Industrial production replaced hand carving. Sculpture became fine art, separated from craft. We did not lose a technology, we lost an education. You are standing in the chapel of Sansevero again. The veiled Christ lies before you. You know the explanations, you understand the techniques, you have read the scholarship, and still the veil looks soft. Perhaps the question is not how it was made. Perhaps the question is why we find it so difficult to believe that it was made at all. We assume that progress is linear, that each generation knows more than the last, that modern tools make us more capable. But capability is not only about tools, it is about attention, focus, the willingness to spend a decade on a single object. The sculptors who made these works were not superhuman, they were simply patient. And perhaps that is the most unsettling thought of all, that the only thing separating us from their skill is not knowledge, not technology, not lost secrets, but the willingness to dedicate a lifetime to a single piece of stone. The veil remains, the question remains, and we are left to wonder what else we might achieve if only we had the time.